So hey all, to start with, it is the middle of November when I'm recording this, a little before the midpoint, and of course, Thanksgiving is on the way. Current plans are a quiet Thanksgiving at home with a couple of people, but that possibility might change. But if it does, we'll see what comes up. At this particular point in time, I'm not anticipating that we're going to have any other viable alternatives because sometimes some of the family likes to gather in a different part of the state, and usually that's a long way to go for us to travel just for a Thanksgiving dinner. And but other than that, I'm anticipating a nice Thanksgiving holiday. It will be my first Thanksgiving at my new job, but fortunately, based on what I know of our usual pattern of activities, it shouldn't really be too big of a deal being like a end of month holiday because I usually have a couple of things that I kind of need to do in the last few days of the month. But we'll be back for like that last week, so it shouldn't be any problem for me. So let's see. In writing news, it's kind of been a busy period at work, very kind of hectic and a little bit unpredictable. I don't know, how much I can really say about that, or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know, but in any event, it's kind of been a little stressful. So I've just been putting my larger projects aside for a little bit and working on a short story idea that kind of popped into my head as sort of like, I guess, a Halloween story. And it combines a couple of elements from something that I was working on, um, as far as I guess different ideas for what could qualify, as well as fitting into the story world that I've created for Winterfall, because it's supposed to be set in an early period in the universe when Ellie was first serving on the train, and you'll meet Ellie eventually. I still need to release some of that, but I'm kind of trying to collect, I guess, a small body of work before I start releasing stuff again, just so that it kind of has a flow to it. And but I mean, so far it's going pretty well. I've been working on it a little bit every night, and I think I'll probably try and work into that sort of pattern where it's just like just a little bit every now and then, and just kind of keep on it and just get things finished that way. And eventually it'll just be, I hope, a regular flow of ideas and projects and stuff like that, because that's always been part of my trouble, keeping things flowing and keeping the different kinds of pressure off, like the feeling that you need to be doing something, the feeling that you have to do a certain amount, the feeling that it has to be good, that it has to be out there, that it has to be perfect, all that kind of stuff. And but so far it's starting out well. And of course, a lot of the crux of this idea kind of depends on the ending. But I don't know how long it's going to be at this point, or how it's going to turn out. But so far I think I'm liking what I'm coming up with. And I think it also might help to have a regular flow of some small self-contained-ish um, projects, or something. Give me a variety. It'll give me something different to work with, and maybe something like zero or low pressure, just to kind of work on a little bit now and then, and just also have something regular to release, both to increase my body of work, increase my readership, and also kind of show off what's in my brain, and so on. Just, I guess, to address some of the things I mentioned earlier. Some of those competing pressures that I'm sure everybody feels to different degrees, but I haven't always been the greatest about managing those, or I guess handling them super realistically, or I don't even know what. But at some point, I guess I'll probably talk about a lot of the let's see, what is it they call it, cognitive distortions that maybe don't excuse a lot of the unpredictability of my output, but it might at least be easier to kind of explain, how it kind of affects me, and how I let it affect me, or I don't know what. But in any case, It's going well, and I'd like to kind of keep that going, but I do need to get back to work on some of my larger projects because I really do want to put something out, hopefully this year. I still think I have enough time to release at least one project, probably not all the projects that I wanted to, but um, it's one thing at a time, I think. And but I've got some things that are close to, at least in my mind, close to being ready, I think. But there's some stuff I have to finish, and some of it needs revision, and so on and so forth. But hopefully once I get a few more things done, I'll be in a position where I feel confident enough both about my abilities, about what I'm doing, and about understanding the process that it should become more regular. But we will see. I will definitely try to keep you guys informed, because I found that what helps is that the more regularly I do things, the less anxious I am about them. It's like doing these vlogs, which used to be recording videos for a while was something that I was extremely anxious about. Just putting my face out there, talking to people, being on the internet in that regard, so to speak. It's like for a while I wouldn't do any videos with my actual face on it, just because I don't know why. I just kind of felt embarrassed or shy about it, or something, and maybe that's normal. But once I started doing it and I stopped stressing about about all of that stuff, it's like about all the stuff other than just doing what you're doing, because that really seems to be the key to, at least for me, closer stability and happiness and so on and so forth. Because it's like I don't necessarily care if I become viral or anything like that. I just want to do what I'm doing and just be happy with that, put some stuff out into the universe, and however far it happens to reach. So there's that. And let's see. I guess that's it for writing news. Video news. I was hoping to be ready to record another book review, but the two books that I am currently reading, which I will discuss in a moment, I am still working on. I'm not sure if it's just if I've been a slow reader these last 2 weeks, or if they're just really long books, or maybe a little bit of both. But I'm pretty far in advance, and I usually I'm reading 2 books at a time, so usually I can complete them at a good enough rate to keep up my good lead. But hopefully the next couple of books after these two will be short ones, just so that I don't I keep that lead, because it definitely helps with my anxiety. Just being able to do this stuff regularly and keeping on top of it. And but in terms of video news, I'm working on a vlog today, and I might try to work on um another, like, I guess like a writing video. Normally I would kind of want to do that in suit, but I would like to produce a video that I can get on the schedule and get it ready to go. And and I think initially there was a lot of debate back and forth about this second video, because I was going to make a video that was talking about, like, reasons I've dropped books, and I was potentially going to get into specifics, but I don't really want to be catty, or necessarily like calling anybody out, even unintentionally. So I mean, what I might do is just like explain what, rather than mentioning the books directly, talk about what happened. Some of them you might be able to tell from what I say, but it's not necessarily about anything in particular, but it's just like phenomena, tropes, whatever, early mistakes that I see folks make, or just things that just don't strike me right, in general, because it's not just these projects in which these things happen, although it does tend to be the self-published kind of things where a lot of these things do occur because there are no editors to look at it. And of course, I mean, even if there are, editors don't always catch things or read things the same way, neither do readers. But I'll probably talk about it a little bit and just try and keep it, I guess, generalized, so that it's more like hopefully an educational experience, or at least something that gives some thought to it, rather than anything that would be viewed as picking on anyone in particular, because I don't want to do that. It's like I wouldn't want that done to me, and I'm not looking to do that to anybody else. It's like I'm really not. But there are, it is my goal to improve writers, to help them improve, to improve my own work. And that being said, if somebody doesn't point these things out, then you might never know. And so that's my goal here. It's like, here's what's going on. It's like, if you see that you did this in your work and you want to improve, great. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. But we'll get to that later. As far as the two books I'm reading, I'm still reading the same two books, Artifact Space and Gideon the Ninth, and I don't take that as a negative, but it's taking a longer to get through them than I kind of anticipated it would, and I'm not sure if I think that Artifact Space is a longer page count than I had expected, and I think that Gideon the Ninth is probably similar, which is probably why it's taking longer than anticipated, because last video session we had, because I record every 2 weeks. Last video session that I had was we had a family event that we were going to, so I didn't have my usual full span of time. And that being said, that was fine, because truth be told, I wasn't ready to record another full scale video at that time anyway. So, it kind of worked because it gave me an extra 2 weeks to keep reading these books, but here we are 2 weeks later and I'm still not finished. So I'm hoping that after 6 weeks I will be finished with these books and I can move on to some of the other ones in my queue, because I do still owe some people reviews. I still have a bunch of other things. And, also the review of one of the early ones that I started reading from my writers group, Quantity of Desire, is now public and on YouTube. I do think it was a positive review, and I really enjoyed the book. And I think the author did really good, did really well. I really liked it, and it's like, it's one of those really good debut novel examples where, I mean, everybody's first novel, I guess, has a couple of things that they could have done better, myself included. But for the usual level of quality I expect for most people's first novels is usually not that good. But I had a feeling that his would be really good, and it was. And there's very few, I guess, self-published fandom authors that I was impressed with their first entries, and really, I would have to say that these two books. Kjellgold's Volley and Payson Harris's Quantity of Desire are definitely two of them. So, take that as you will. But I think it takes a lot for me to be impressed, because I'm very particular. I don't want to say that I'm harsh or anything like that, because I'm not, but or at least I don't think I am. But I do have a pretty high standard for when I come to, particularly at the point where you ask people to pay for your work. Because I kind of think that that's the point where you cross the threshold of the courtesy of not really saying anything negative if there is something that qualifies, and not to say there's anything necessarily negative about either about any particular book, but if somebody asks you to read a story, it's like you should. I try to be generally like courteous, and I don't really nitpick. But I do apply a more, I guess, detailed approach in cases where it's what I would consider a professional endeavor. A movie that they've publicly released, a book that you're, self-published or traditionally published and expecting people to pay for, and so on and so forth. It's like I feel that in that case, when you've crossed that threshold, that it's fair game to be a little bit more deeply evaluated. And like I said, Quantity of Desire and Volley, are both two of the ones that were fandom debut author books that I thought were exceptionally good, especially considering that they were, I think, both self-published. Well, I know Volley was published by the name is escaping me at the moment, but it's a very common furry publisher, and Payson Harris, I think, was also published, I guess, and by a furry publisher. And again, I'm not remembering which one, but still, either way, regardless, self-published or not, it was just their debut novels, and they were very, very worth reading. Um, but I'm gonna try and finish Artifact Space because I'm 80% done with the book, I think. And once I'm done, I'll pick a new book and I'll alternate with Gideon until I finish that one. And then I'll just keep working my way through my queue. But at least for now, anyway, I think I'm gonna hold off buying any new books until I drop my pile down a little bit. Because I found one sci-fi series that caught my attention that I bought on my own volition, but it's like it's all stuff I want to read. I just am trying to keep the progress moving. As mentioned earlier, I've had a pretty busy week. Um, I'll try and keep this brief, but suffice to say that it's been a little bit chaotic. On Tuesday, I took a half day and I got my bivalent booster and my flu shot, so I'm protected by the power of science. Um, but it kind of took me out on Wednesday, so I had to call out sick that day. But I was in most of the rest of the week, and I got a lot done. I made some progress on some things, but it was also a very hectic Friday, particularly because, I guess to put it very generally, things were already busy, and then somebody kind of threw a grenade into the works, which made things very chaotic. But it was so busy that I actually forgot to approve my time before I left work. But it's okay because I can do it on Monday when I go in. But normally I'm religious about approving my time card, and I completely forgot to do that. And of course, I reminded everybody else to do it and all that kind of stuff. But it was just like it's completely spaced out of my brain. Um, but anyway, it's kind of why I'm hoping this weekend will be a little chill, and we'll see what we can do. And hopefully by the time I'm ready for another review session, I will have a review ready for Artifact Space, and I can put that on the queue and get that working. We're also planning on visiting Mom. I think I'm going to target the middle of January because I'm still a little bit wary of traveling during the actual holidays, and I kind of want a nice holiday break, just at home a few days. And I kind of think that it'll be calmer, and I don't know the cycle of this job yet for a full year, so I don't know all the ins and outs at this point. But my instincts tell me that it'll just work out better all around to take a little time off in the middle of January. So I'm going to take a few days off in January or on Martin Luther King Day, take that whole week off, and then I'll go visit Mom for a few days. I don't know which days, but I think I'll probably try and make it a decent visit, like 5 or 6 days, and then have at least a couple of days at home before I have to go back to work. And I think it'll be okay. But I don't have any specific plans. But and part of me is a little lamentable about the fact that Christmas decorations will probably all be down by the time I go visit Mom, because I kind of like seeing all the Christmas decorations in New York, especially around the house and around the neighborhood and such. Still might be the possibility of snow because it's the middle of January in New York, but we'll see. I mean, the whole point is visiting family. I haven't been up there since I transitioned, since the pandemic started, because, well, I mean, at first you couldn't travel because of the pandemic, or at least most people didn't. And then there was also the fact that I was unemployed, which I didn't really have the money to go traveling. Um, and I definitely want to do that this year because it's been vastly too long. And I'll be going by myself this time, which kind of fills me with a little bit of trepidation, but we'll see. I mean, I don't expect any kind of negative experience, but it's just I don't know. It's not, I guess, something. My parents still call me by my previous name sometimes, which I mean, I kind of get that if you don't see me all the time, because it's something that may not necessarily be integrated in your brain. I mean, they always remember when they write to me, and when they send me cards and stuff. So I mean, there's that. But I'm kind of hoping for one of those sorts of things where Mom just goes all in for it, you know? I mean, I kind of hope for that, but you know, if I'm not lucky, that's great. If not, I mean, I don't really expect things to be hugely different, but you know, it's different. I also don't know how my sister is going to deal with that. I mean, she knows about it. I mean, all you know, my immediate family does. I don't really know if my extended family does, but I'm sure my mom has probably relayed the information. Maybe that's a little bit cowardly to assume that you know they've told our relatives, but you know, I also don't know how I feel about you know having made a bunch of phone calls, but we'll see. Anyway, it is what it is. I guess the last thing is that, and I'm going to try, when available, you know, try and put a little bit of news about my Patreon in here as well, just to kind of keep things updated, and also maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe I'll try and make it like a separate video or something, you know, like a Patreon vlog or so. I don't know. I'll fine tune it and I'll figure it out. But for right now, it's just you know, something I was thinking about because you know, it's like I have writing news, I have video news, I have books I'm reading, and this is another one of those things that hopefully at some point we'll have a semi-regular update. But you know, I know a lot of artists, a lot of creatives struggle with Patreon, maintaining rewards, making sure that it works for us, and all that kind of stuff. So you know, we'll see. But I mean, that's it for now. So I will catch you all in 2 weeks.
If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!